Right into it. Coach, I appreciate you joining us, man. I appreciate you coming in here, and Lloyd was actually did a Lloyd thing and just didn't let me know. So thanks for joining the show.
All good. We can overcome Lloyd. We can overcome.
That's it. You got to overcome adversity, and Lloyd is in my adversity every show.
Every day.
Every team needs a Lloyd.
Every show.
He's the cloud on my sunny day.
Well, Coach, I know you're busy, man. I don't want to keep you too long, so let's jump right into it. This weekend was huge for you, right? You actually come through you're getting out of a long stretch of games, right? You had a 4-game series last week. You had a midweek game on Wednesday, and then you had another 3-game series. So that's 8 games, I think, in 10 days, or so along those lines. Y'all didn't play 9 innings. Y'all made quick work of Samford. What did you see from the guys this weekend? What were you most proud of, and what are some things that you wish that they could have done a little bit better, if there's any?
Yeah, I thought the consistency was really good. I think I like the arms that Samford threw. Like, we faced decent pitching in my estimation. When you look at their stuff, how they performed, up into the series, I thought we took really good at bats. I thought we played good defense. I think we only had 1 error in the 3 games, and so that was good. And then the pitchers, really good. I mean, Paul was Paul. Ty had a really good start. Patrick was really good yesterday, and kind of a hard weekend to evaluate the bullpen. We didn't get a lot of guys in. The couple of the 10-run rule things snuck up on us. I think we achieved one of them in the bottom of the 6th inning, so we only had to go out and throw 1 inning out of the bullpen. And then we obviously scored 9 in the bottom of the 7th yesterday. So all in all, pretty good. Not a lot to complain about in a 36-2 weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. No, you mentioned Ty Floyd, you mentioned Thatcher. Obviously, we knew how talented Ty Floyd was based off of what he did towards the back end of last year, and everybody talked about how talented Thatcher was, and you saw it, a little bit against Texas, and then you really saw it this weekend. This is Ty Floyd's 2nd Saturday start. This is Thatcher's 1st. Is this the weekend rotation that we can expect moving forward in the near future, or is this something that you're still going to try to tweak in the coming games?
Yeah, I think what we do is we look at it week to week based on the opponent and based on where guys are at. We kind of set up the season in like this first 16 or 17 game period beforehand. And, there was some tweaking and adjusting, and obviously Grant Taylor getting hurt kind of complicated it a little bit, but we had a pretty good plan of how we wanted to roll through these 4 weeks. And for the most part, it worked out pretty good to kind of get us to this point. It just kind of depends on week to week. The opponent is somebody over there left-handed versus right-handed. Do they struggle with a certain type of thing? Now, that being said, I have confidence in the guys that we rolled out there this weekend on the weekend, have confidence in the bullpen. But, I mean, you're looking at other guys, right on the fringe of this thing. Like, Chase Shores is giving up 1 run in 9 innings, and has pitched really, really well. There's guys emerging, Griffin Herring, Micah Bucknam, 2 freshmen that I want to get in the ballgame more often. And so that's been the one challenge with the shortened games deal is I would have liked to have gotten a few more guys out there. Tomorrow, midweek game against a team that's doing well, and I think they have 11 wins so far. Maybe a good opportunity to see a couple guys, but there's guys that are at the forefront of what we're doing that need to get in the game and work also. So it's a little tricky, but happy with what the pitchers are doing right now.
Yeah, we actually spoke about that before the season started. When I asked you that question, that was one of the things that we had talked about was it's not having the 7-inning game and the shortened game doesn't allow you to get some of these young guys in or some of these guys in the bullpen to get to work. How do you combat that, right? How do you I know you've mentioned that you have a plan in place for some of these guys, even if they aren't able to get in. What is that plan? Like, what does that consist of?
Yeah, we kind of went into immediate adjustment mode yesterday after the game and basically just tweaked a little bit of what throwing they were doing. Some guys needed to throw post-game yesterday, which they have to do on their own because we can't coach them after the game. That's like an NCAA rule. And then today was an off day, so we set some of them up to throw on their own if they chose to do that, again, with no coaches. And then tomorrow, we have a little bit of a different plan, maybe because of how the weekend evolved. And then if we get through tomorrow and some guys still haven't thrown where we want them to, we'll adjust what they're doing on Wednesday a little bit as well. So it's a good problem to have. It's just the big spreads in the games here recently have kind of, I don't want to say complicated it, but, maybe haven't allowed us to get everybody in that we want to.
Now, Coach, we spoke about Jared Jones earlier in the year and his presence in the lineup and all that stuff. But let's be honest, at the end of the day, he's much more than just a presence. He goes through a little bit of a mini slump. Kid breaks out in a huge way once you insert him back into the lineup. What was talked about over the last couple of weeks or whatever, however long it's been, to kind of get him back into his groove and kind of get him back to feeling good?
Yeah, I think, these guys that come to LSU, just like you guys when you came to LSU, I mean, they're some of the top players in the country and, sometimes haven't been challenged with adversity because every time they step on the field, they're the best player on the field. And that was probably the case for Jared. And so, having a weekend where he scuffled a little bit, you guys know this, what happens is sometimes you start pressing, you just want that good result so that you can feel good, whether that's that hit, that homer, and then you get away from seeing the ball, you get away from owning the strike zone, all of those types of things, and all the things that make you a good hitter, you lose track of, and it just becomes about trying to get a hit. Well, that's the worst thing you can do, and then sometimes it spirals. So last Monday, I brought him in, and briefly we talked about, I just wanted him to watch a game or two and just kind of see himself being in control of himself as if he were playing in that game. And then we just tweaked a little bit on some approach things, kind of talked through kind of his mental game. And then he made a very small adjustment, which is total credit to him. He's a hard worker. He's at the field all the time. And then was ready when he got back in. And I think that shows a lot of maturity. It didn't become about, hey, I got to do something to stay in there. Like, that's the worst thing that you can do. And he kind of stuck to it, and he's really talented, and he's not going to be perfect, but the results were about as good as you could hope for. So happy for him, and it adds a real dynamic to our team that a lot of teams in the country don't have when he's in there and he's going good.
So, Coach, I got to tell you, I would probably say we saw maybe a 2-minute clip of just random swings of his before we talked to him pre-draft. We had him on the show. He leaves the show. After the show, we've been shouting his name from the rooftops since that day, and this is before the draft. What about what Paxton Kling has done so far that's gotten you to feel the most proud about what he's done? Because I feel like we saw this coming for a long time, and it's crazy to see a kid that young be that mature and kind of handle himself that way.
Yeah, he's really good. I think the first part about it is, how he kind of ended up here. He was committed, and I mean, I accept this job, and there's a lot going when you're changing, from one big job at Arizona to LSU. And I got a call at 6 a.m. West Coast time the next morning from his travel coach, Jeff Petty, and said, hey, you definitely want this guy, but he's going to probably decommit. And so I tried to get engaged with him, and we talked a little bit. He decided he was going to open up his recruitment. And I was kind of upset at first, but then thinking through it, I mean, he wanted to establish a relationship with whoever was going to be his college coach. And so I called him back and just said, hey, I really would like to re-recruit you. And so he allowed us that. And then whether it was at the area code games, at the Team USA trials, I just tried to be present and showing him hey, we're here. This is how it's going to be if you come play for us, is we're going to be really available for you. And sometimes you have to show really good players, kind of love in that recruiting process. I flew up to Roaring Springs, Pennsylvania on a Wednesday last September. Shortly after that, we brought him on an official visit, and then finally he said, yeah, I'm going to come to LSU. And so going through that process, I feel like we connected really well, and I learned a lot about him. And the two things I learned about him was baseball and his career. were super important to him. And so I was like, this guy I know is supremely talented, but he wants to be really, really good. Like, he's one of those guys that, you need to have your I's dotted and T's crossed when you talk with him, because he's really serious about his craft. And then pulling his name out of the draft, I thought showed a lot of maturity. A lot of kids get super emotional about that pro baseball thing and this draft thing, where this guy has a longer term picture where he wants to be a major league player for a long time, and knew he was a little bit green, just coming from the area of the country that he did, and would really benefit from this experience and playing and developing. So that was like another layer of like, and this guy's got something unique to him. And then when we started on our development stuff in the fall, like we really pushed him forward. Like I was hitting him at the top of the lineup for either team on the inter squad just to try to catch him up in at bats. And then just his willingness to learn, his coachability, his work ethic, like that kind of showed me another layer of maturity. And then, got off to a little bit of a slow start, which, hey man, it's a big jump from high school baseball in Pennsylvania to Division I baseball. And so he was a defensive replacement a few games, but he was just totally about the team, and he was working. And it's like, man, when this guy gets in and gets going, it's going to take off. And then once we put him back in, when we returned from Texas, it's been like, he's
had like 700.
Has he been out?
I think you nailed it. Like when you're a freshman, especially coming in, because you want to make a great impression, not only on you, but on the fans and on the guys on the team, and you want to prove that I belong and I earn the spot. To come in there and not start off the way that you want to start, and stay with it and stick with it and still be, that same type of guy, I think that shows a lot about his character and how good of a player he is. And I think he adds a different dynamic to you. Obviously, he's really good defensively and he can run, but on the base paths, like he's stolen a few bags, and I think he's the one guy I feel like he does something a little different than everyone else.
Yeah, no doubt. And I'm craving for that. Like, there's a super part of how baseball has evolved with the walk and the homer, like the only important bats. Like sometimes I'll feel like my hands are tied coaching wise, because the game's kind of built around that. You don't want to run yourself into outs, but I got here by being super aggressive. Right. Well, now we have a player that can outrun the baseball. Right. And I know that's funny saying that. And
Papa Bell.
Hit a line drive up the middle and hit himself in the head. So I'm excited about him, and he's only going to continue to get better. And, really, really legit at bats, maturity out of him.
Yeah. Before we move on to A&M, before the preview of A&M, I want to talk about Tommy just a little bit. Obviously, he had the shoulder injury. Start off, I understand how baseball works. Jared understands how baseball works. Sometimes fans don't really understand how baseball works, and they want to see it happen right away. So they're worried about him after 5 games. He's obviously gotten extremely hot. He's pimping grand slams to dead center field, which not many people can do. That's very impressive whenever you've hit a ball out to center. But you put him back at third base. He made a play going to his left. What have you seen from him, not only offensively, obviously, we've always known the talent there, but defensively and having enough confidence in putting him back at third with his shoulder?
Yeah. First off, I knew the offensive thing was special. Obviously not just what he did last year, but what he did in the fall for us. And then leading into the season, I really wasn't that concerned. I think, there's a lot more hype around these guys than there ever has been. With the internet and all that. And then, at LSU, there's a lot of interest around our team, which is great. It makes it the best place in the country to play. And then sometimes I think, if they don't handle it the right way, they're trying to live up to some standard that's completely unmeetable in baseball. And then that distracts you from what makes you good. And he got past that in a hurry.
Right.
And I'll just give you an example. Yesterday, we had the bases loaded, no outs, and he was up, and he hit a ground ball 111 miles an hour at the shortstop for the play. And it's obviously you want to elevate the ball, and he was kind of frustrated. And but I'm first off, you hit the ball 110 miles an hour, so we're okay.
We're okay.
Secondly, hey, here's a small adjustment that's going to keep you behind the ball and lift it. And then his very next at bat, he comes up in the same situation and does it exactly right, and it allows a talented player like that to, I guess, pimp a home run to center field. I never knew what that was like. So
I tell you what, it is hard, like, hitting a ball, especially center field in Alex box, because look, people think center field is a hard place. That the way he hit it and how he hit it and him knowing
off the bat,
like that's not many people can do that in Alex box. So that's impressive.
Coach, so you got Tommy, you got Dylan, you got Trey, you got like all of these older guys who've done a really, really, really good job of using the big part of the field and the opposite part of the field in this young part of the season. Have you been able to use that as kind of like a coaching point for some of these younger guys? Because it's one thing to see it in the fall. It's one thing to see it in the cage. It's another thing to see it when it actually really matters.
Yeah, 100%. I think the hitting part is a very big deal to me because the game won on pitching and defense. Like, I totally understand that. Yeah. But like, if you look around college baseball, like, you have to really stand out to be known as like a really good offensive program. You have to be able to recruit the right kind of players. You have to develop them the right way. You have to, be able to, when things aren't going good, have something to go to. And we try to put all of this together. And this has been like over 20 years. And now just getting to do it with these types of talents is a lot of fun. And after the Butler game last Friday, we won like 12-2, but I didn't feel like it was a very good game. And then we just kind of came back in. We talked about it after the game Friday night and kind of pinpointed some team-wide adjustments that we wanted to make. And then it was like, boom. I mean, we've been going ever since then. And the maturity that you see in the at-bats leads it to those guys being able to hit the ball to center field, to right field. And it's like, hey, man, please throw in, because somebody tried to the other day and White hit one 150 miles an hour off the wall. I mean, it wasn't a run because it wasn't hit high enough. I mean, Jones hits one over the scoreboard. Like, it's like their ability to handle the plate and handle different types of pitchers so far, and their adjustments has been probably the most positive thing about the offense. And there's no break, there's no let up. So they have to pitch to somebody, and they're all kind of benefiting from that and benefiting from a good approach. Like, they can hit the ball the other way with authority. They can turn on the ball, they middle of the field well, and we'll need to continue to do that to be successful. Yeah.
With Tommy back at third base, and Trey going back to first, and then moving Jared to DH, is that kind of what you envision this, I guess, A-plus lineup? I know you have a ton of depth and you have a ton of guys that you have confidence in putting in whenever they need to, but with the way the lineup has shaken out now, and with everybody healthy, is this kind of the lineup that you envisioned having when you started the season?
We'll see. I think there's a lot of things we can do. There's a couple guys that are taking really good at bats. Like, Kate Beloso has taken really, really good at bats. Like, he's going to get some at bats. Yeah. You know what I mean? Joe Bear has hit some key home runs, was really hot in Texas for that tournament. We know what he can do based on last year. He has hit into some tough luck and hit the ball hard. Like, he's obviously going to still figure into this thing. I really like Ethan Fry. That's a guy that I think is going to be a superstar here. And there's a lot of things that we can do. Dugas kind of re-emerging has been huge for our team. And it's just like there's no let up. I mean, Brady Neal's taking really quality at bats for a young player. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of ways we can do it. Sometimes it'll depend on the pitching matchup. Sometimes it's odd. And I think what I've liked the best is, when we've sat a guy and just kind of worked on something for a couple days, they're bringing it to the at-bat, that they take after that. And that's a really good sign of aptitude, because not everybody can do that.
So, Coach, SEC play starts this weekend. You guys take the show on the road to a team that was finished the year in Omaha last year. In your mind, in your eyes right now, what is it that the LSU Tigers need to do to be successful this weekend and come away with, at worst, a series win?
Yeah, I think first off, we need to play tomorrow night. Like, I know it's very coach speak.
No, you're right.
you just can't get past that. I mean, it's a team that's got 11 wins and is playing really good. But as far as the weekend, and this is not relative to this weekend, this is relative to the rest of the schedule, is just play in character.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And not disrupted or distracted from the things that make us really good, and just kind of doubling down or recommitting to playing the game with the right mindset, the right fundamentals, whether we're up 10-0 or down 5-0 or in a one-run game late. I think the pitching improvement gives us a little bit more margin for error. At times last year in SEC play, I felt like we had to be perfect or we weren't going to win. And that team did a great job. I mean, we won 17 games and finished in 4th place in a team that sent 4 teams to Omaha, or in a league that sent 4 teams to Omaha and 6 or 7 to the super regionals. So I think just playing in character. And, I've seen some things that make me believe we're going to do that, but the game really tests you and challenges you. This will be a test. Like, this is a veteran team, definite national championship contender on paper with the players they have returning, and it'll be one of several tests that we get to test our mettle or mindset and play against, and it's really, really exciting.
What are some of the challenges that A&M themselves brings to you? Obviously, you go to A&M playing in is it
College Station?
No, College Station, but I was going to say Kyle Field. That's the football stadium. What's the baseball stadium called? Anyone know?
I don't know.
I don't
Johnson
know.
Field.
Anyway, playing at A&M, you're going there. You're on the road. They do the whole like ball 5, ball 6 stuff. So it's obviously going to be hostile environment. But what challenges do the team themselves bring to you?
Yeah, I think experience. When you look at like the preseason all-conference team, as I was like filling out my ballot, it's like I think Boast is a really good player. Werner's a really good player. Minnick has been hurt, but he's a really good player. Jack Moss is a good hitter. And all those guys were like the key to their team last year that went to the College World Series. So I mean, they have plenty of experience. Nathan Detmer on the mound is a really good SEC pitcher. Will be a high draft pick. Chris Cortez, good arm. Their Saturday starter threw well. But that's going to be the case with everybody we play.
Right.
I think like the combined record of the 10 teams on our schedule is like 120 and 26 or something like that. So it's just like, so you don't really make one opponent out to be anything. It just goes back to how you play and how you prepare and controlling those things. And I think if we do that, then that helps us, and that's where we're at our best.
We've talked about everybody we've talked about almost everybody on this team. We've gone through the list, we've mentioned it, and it's gonna sound weird for me to say this. It's like almost people get bored by mentioning Dylan Cruz's name, but this man's hitting .510 going into SEC play, and
that reaction says
people just don't even talk about him anymore. I'm like, you realize he's hitting half the time he's up to the plate, he's getting a hit right now, and it's not
very
dinkers.
aware.
But people don't talk about him. Like, it's pretty outrageous. How has it been being around this guy? Obviously, we've talked about this a lot, but I'm super impressed. To me, he's the best college baseball player that I've ever watched, and we were pretty good when we played here. And I'm not ashamed to say that I have no problem saying he is probably the best and most talented player that I have seen come out of college.
He's a danger
LSU.
to my health.
I have no problem saying it's the most advanced college swing I have ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And he's killing me slowly.
I don't even really know where to start. I think just from the play standpoint, we talked about how we were going to operate, or how he was going to operate this year, when everybody knows he's the best player on the field, and kind of likened it to Barry Bonds as he was having those amazing seasons with the Giants, where you're going to have a lot of 1-for-1 or 1-for-2s with a homer or an extra base hit and like 3 or 4 walks. And to see him execute like his plan and not get outside of it is ridiculously special.
Yeah.
And there was an example on Friday, Friday's game, it actually got us going. He struck out in his first at bat, and I don't think it was a strike. And I'm convinced he knows the strike zone better than any umpire. But he swung at a ball 0-1, and it was a foul ball, and Samford kind of misplayed it. And then I looked at him, and I was just like, I could see him getting himself like retooled for his 2-strike approach, and it was like whack.
Yeah.
And it's just like not many college hitters can do that, and he never lets the situation become bigger than his plan. And his plan is so good, the person is so good, the talent is so good. Like, it just shows up. There's good players all over the country where you can see, hey, I can see how that guy could be good. Well, this he's good all the time. I mean, he's literally good all the time. Yeah. And that's what makes him different.
Yeah. Coach, on that same AB that you mentioned, he was so frustrated. He ran all the way to second on a foul ball between the catcher and first base. And so for him to be able to reset like that, but did y'all have some sort of conversation in the preseason or offseason where it's like, look, you're going to get pitched around a little bit no matter how much I try to protect you? Because as soon as he goes down 1-0, 2-0, it's almost like an automatic walk at this point, because there was times last year he would press and try to chase because he wanted to get a hit so badly. It seems like he's readjusted and become acclimated, almost getting walked.
Yeah, I think that's just a sign of awareness and improvement. He's got both of them. Mentioning the play you just talked about, though, like a thing that I bring up a lot, but I don't think is talked about a lot, is the leadership qualities that he has. Like, everybody asks me, like, how do you deal with getting all these guys playing time and superstars not playing and agents and advisors and this and that? And it's like, these guys have been great, and they're great because their best player, Dylan Cruz, demands that they play hard, demands that they are a team first player, and he sets the bar for that. And on the pitching side, Paul Skeens does the same thing. Yeah. So, our best player and best pitcher are not putting up with any JV BS with any of the players. And so that's the part that is really, really special. Like, I mean, on top of, I think his on base percentage is like 700 or something like that. And I tell people this all the time, and it's like, when I was approached about this job, like, it's obviously LSU and the great legacy that you guys and the previous coaches and players had built, but I knew there's a cat on that team that I was going to have for 2 years that they don't show up on college campuses hardly ever. Yeah. He's deserving of all the praise that he gets, and it's awesome to see and be a part of, and it really lifts us. He did the same thing yesterday to get us going.
Coach, switching gears a little bit, I got one last question for you. You kind of threw us for a loop a little bit. In a weekend where the bullpen didn't really get taxed, like you said, we get a 4-0 game, and the first guy out of that pen that came out of there was Gavin Gidger in that situation. Can you tell us about the decision and what kind of went into that decision?
Yeah, we line up the game all the time. It's like one of my favorite parts of coaching is, lining up the pitching for how we're going to win, and having Wes calling pitches and, helping me with matchups and all that. Like, it's a blast, and having the talent that we have. It plain and simple, two things went into that. We felt like he matched up really good with the top of the lineup, the three best hitters. And I do believe he has a chance to be in those spots going forward. Yep. You know what I mean? In SEC play. So we like that. And I was very pleased actually with the performance, because he got down 3-0 to the first hitter, and then he got back to 3-2, and it was very debatable whether it was strike 3 or first hitter. Like, he dotted that pitch. But then he recomposed himself and then got to 0-2, and then, got ahead in the count. And then the next guy lined out to right. But, when you get ahead in the count and respond like that, the pitcher usually gets rewarded, which he did. Yep. And then we just took him out because that was the right time in the game to go to Riley, and who obviously we want to get back moving in that direction. So pitching him twice this weekend and in the right spots was by design. And then, we were ready to go to Chase Shores to finish the game because we wanted him to do that. It's like a 6-out type save, and it was only 4-1, and I was all pumped up about this. I'm like, man, this is working out perfectly. And then we scored 9 and didn't get to play.
Well, we said this was your last
playing out the window.
We said that was your last question, which it was until you brought up the Chase Shore things. Is that going to be his role moving forward? Is he going to still get some starts, or is he going to be kind of back into the bullpen? Him and kind of Christian Little going back there and having that electric, fastball, and letting him get some couple innings in the backside of the games.
Yeah, we have a real specific plan for like what we're going to do with him, because I do think, whether it's the end of the back end of this year, obviously the beginning of next year in 2025, like it's a Friday, Saturday, All-American type pitcher and high draft pick. So we want to use him in the right spots. So you could see some mix and matching between Tuesday and then bullpenning. Obviously, we're paying really close attention to how he recovers, so that becomes important to how we use him as well. I just thought, because he had started 3 games, like, I know he can start, and I would be comfortable running him out on the weekend in the SEC and starting and feeling good about our chances to win. But we were kind of wanting to test the bringing him out of the bullpen, saying he was ready to go. Like, we got out of that inning. Riley did a really nice job. And so we had plenty of ramp up time for him to get ready to go. And I was all excited, even when it was like 8-1. I was like, this is still a really good test run. And then it's like, wait a minute, if Paxton hits a homer here, the game's over. Or gets hit, if he gets a hit, the game's over. And then, something that was cool about that, like, I was probably more frustrated than anybody that the game was over. I looked down the bullpen, and like Chase was like jogging down like full speed to get part of the celebration. Like, he got through pitch, but he was good. And that's that kind of stuff's going on our team all the time.
Yeah, and that's special. That's
awesome.
kind of you can have all the talent in the world. If you don't have that part of the team, then you're not going to go very far. But when you have both, it could be a very special team, and that's what I think that y'all have. Obviously, SEC play starts. Competition is going to ramp up. I'm looking forward to watching y'all play this weekend. I'm looking forward to y'all navigating through the upcoming games. But I appreciate your time. As always, thank you for coming on our show and being so generous with your time. And I'm looking forward to watching y'all play tomorrow and through the course of the weekend. So thank you.
Cool. All right, guys. Have a good night.
Have a good night.
There to go.